Have you ever noticed how it's easier to focus on problems rather than the good things in life? A single criticism, worry, or negative thought can take over your entire day, while the positive moments slip by almost unnoticed. But why does this happen? Why does our mind insist on dwelling on the bad, even when we don't want it to? In this video, we'll dive into the science behind negative thinking. We'll explain how the brain is wired to prioritize negativity, how anxiety and stress keep you stuck in this cycle, and most importantly, we'll share practical techniques to break free and train your mind to focus on the positive. If you're tired of being trapped by negative thoughts, get ready. Science not only explains why this happens, but also offers ways to help you change. Let's get started. Why does the mind tend to focus on the negative? The negativity bias. Have you ever noticed how it's easier to remember a criticism than a compliment? Or how a single problem can dominate your thoughts for hours, while the good things seem to slip by unnoticed? This happens because our mind has a natural tendency to focus on the negative, a phenomenon known as the negativity bias. This bias causes negative experiences, like worries, fears, or unpleasant events, to have a much greater impact on the brain than positive experiences. The negativity bias acts like the brain's default mode. It causes the mind to notice, remember, and process negative information more intensely than positive ones. For instance, if you receive 10 positive comments and one single criticism, it's highly likely that your attention will be drawn to the criticism, while the compliments quickly fade into the background. This pattern is common to almost everyone and has deep roots in human biology. This bias exists because the brain interprets negative information as potential threats. When something bad happens, the nervous system automatically reacts, preparing the body to fight or flee. This mechanism was essential for our ancestors, helping them survive in dangerous environments. Even today, when the threats are more likely to be workplace challenges, financial worries, or personal conflicts, rather than predators or rival tribes, the brain continues to prioritize the negative. Not only does the brain notice the negative more quickly, but it also stores it for longer. This happens because negative experiences strongly activate the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for emotions and fear processing. The amygdala then sends signals to the hippocampus, which records memories, ensuring that bad moments are etched more vividly in our minds. This bias even influences our mood and daily behavior. A small issue can trigger stress, anxiety, and trap us in a cycle of mental rumination, where the brain replays negative thoughts over and over, like being stuck in a loop. Meanwhile, positive experiences, which occur every day, often go unnoticed or are quickly forgotten. Understanding the negativity bias is the first step in dealing with it. This tendency isn't a flaw in the brain, but rather an evolutionary adaptation that kept us alive for thousands of years. But how exactly did evolution shape this focus on the negative? That's what we'll explore in the next section. How evolution shaped the brain to prioritize negative thoughts. The human brain is the result of millions of years of evolution, and many of its characteristics were shaped by the need to survive. Focusing on the negative was, for a long time, an essential strategy to ensure our ancestors stayed alive in environments full of threats. While we now live in safer societies, this evolutionary mechanism persists, causing our minds to give more attention to bad thoughts and potential dangers. Imagine our ancestors living in the wild, spotting a predator hiding in the bushes, paying attention to a suspicious sound, or remembering a dangerous location was often a matter of life and death. The brain needed to prioritize the negative because ignoring even a small threat could be fatal. In contrast, overlooking something positive, like a fruit tree, was far less likely to have dire consequences. This preference for the negative was reinforced over generations and became hardwired into our brains. The amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for processing emotions like fear and alertness, developed to react quickly to negative stimuli, preparing the body to act. Even today, The amygdala remains hyperactive in response to stress or bad thoughts, making the brain treat these experiences as top priority. Additionally, the brain doesn't just detect the negative, it also memorizes these experiences more easily. This happens because remembering bad moments helped our ancestors avoid dangerous situations in the future. For instance, someone who survived a predator attack and remembered the experience had a better chance of avoiding a similar encounter. While this behavior ensured the survival of the species, in today's world, it leaves us overly focused on problems and worries. This evolutionary mechanism is also reflected in how we respond to stress. When something negative happens, the brain activates the fight-or-flight system, releasing hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. This reaction, which once helped us escape predators, is now triggered by everyday concerns such as workplace stress or personal conflicts. The result? Our minds get stuck on the negative, even when the danger isn't real. Although the brain evolved to prioritize the negative as a survival strategy, this programming isn't always helpful in the modern world. Excessive negative thoughts can lead to anxiety, chronic stress, and a diminished ability to enjoy life's positive aspects. But how do these thoughts connect to emotions like fear and anxiety? Let's explore this relationship in the next section. The role of anxiety and fear in repeating negative thoughts. Anxiety and fear play a central role in how the mind fixates on negative thoughts. These emotions are natural brain responses designed to handle danger or uncertainty. However, when the mind interprets every challenge as a real threat, these mechanisms go into overdrive, creating a constant cycle of worry and causing negative thoughts to repeat endlessly. The key to this process lies in the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for identifying fear and triggering the alert system. When you feel anxious or afraid, the amygdala sends signals that something is wrong, even if the threat isn't real. The brain responds by releasing cortisol, the stress hormone, which intensifies negative thoughts and makes it harder to think clearly. The problem is that, in trying to protect you, the mind ends up creating catastrophic scenarios. Anxiety makes the brain ruminate, repeatedly cycling through the same worrying thoughts. This happens because the brain is trying to predict every possible threat and solution, a behavior inherited from our survival instincts. In today's world, however, this pattern can be extremely draining and counterproductive. Fear, on the other hand, acts as an amplifier for negative memories. Bad experiences, especially those tied to intense emotions, are recorded more strongly in the brain. The amygdala works alongside the hippocampus to store these memories, creating a kind of danger archive that's easily accessed when something similar occurs. This explains why, in uncertain situations, negative thoughts often arise automatically. Chronic anxiety can also lead the brain to a state of hypervigilance, where it is constantly scanning for problems or signs of danger. This makes even minor concerns grow into significant sources of distress. Instead of finding solutions, the mind gets stuck in a loop of, "What if this goes wrong?" repeating negative patterns that only fuel more anxiety. Fear and anxiety are, therefore, powerful triggers that trap the mind in negativity. Understanding how they work is essential to breaking the cycle. But how do stress and even dopamine, the so-called pleasure neurotransmitter, play a role in this process, keeping the brain locked in constant worry? That's what we'll uncover in the next section. The relationship between stress, dopamine, and the cycle of constant worry. Stress and neurotransmitters like dopamine have a complex relationship with negative thoughts. Stress on its own puts the brain on high alert, creating a persistent sense of danger. In this state, the brain prioritizes problem-solving and threat detection, keeping the mind locked in a loop of worry. What's fascinating is that, despite being unpleasant, this cycle can activate brain mechanisms linked to dopamine, which ends up reinforcing the behavior. Dopamine is known as the pleasure neurotransmitter, but it's also involved in reward-seeking and processing new information. When we're stressed or anxious, the brain interprets negative thoughts as problems to be solved. This triggers small releases of dopamine because, in a way, the mind feels like it's making progress toward a solution. Over time, this creates a nearly addictive loop where worries are revisited repeatedly. Consider this scenario. You're stressed about an upcoming presentation at work. In an attempt to prepare, your mind starts creating various negative scenarios. What if I mess up? What if I forget something? Each time you revisit these worries, the brain releases a little dopamine because it sees this as an effort to regain control or find a solution. Instead of solving the problem, this creates a rumination cycle where the negative thoughts keep returning. Cortisol, the stress hormone, also plays a key role in this equation. During prolonged periods of stress, cortisol levels rise, making the brain more reactive and sensitive to worries. This reduces activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational thinking and emotional regulation, and increases the influence of the amygdala, which focuses on fear and negativity. The result is a hyperactive mind that fixates on worst-case scenarios. Chronic stress also has a significant impact on neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to adapt and create new neural pathways. This means that negative thoughts become stronger patterns over time, harder to break as the brain gets stuck in an automatic cycle. Worse still, this behavior can affect sleep quality, reinforcing worries the next day and perpetuating the loop. The cycle of stress, dopamine, and negative rumination may seem overwhelming, but it can be broken. Science provides practical techniques to help reduce negativity and reprogram the brain to think in a more balanced and healthy way. That's exactly what we'll explore in the next section: how to break the cycle of negative thoughts, practical techniques. Breaking the cycle of negative thoughts might seem challenging, but with a few practical techniques, you can train your mind to focus on the positive and regain balance. The first step is becoming aware of your thoughts. Often, we don't even realize we're stuck in negative patterns. Practices like mindfulness help you observe your thoughts without judgment, making it easier to recognize when your mind is fixated on negativity and redirect it. One effective technique is cognitive restructuring, commonly used in cognitive behavioral therapy. Whenever a negative thought arises, ask yourself, is this concern realistic, or am I exaggerating the problem? For example, if your mind says, I'm going to fail at this, replace it with, I'm preparing and will do my best. This teaches the brain to challenge automatic thoughts and adopt a more rational and positive perspective. Another powerful strategy is to practice daily gratitude. Studies show that focusing on good things, even small ones, like a great cup of coffee or a sunny day, helps counteract the brain's negativity bias. You can keep a gratitude journal and list 3 positive things that happened during your day. This exercise trains your mind to notice and appreciate the positive aspects of life more frequently. Breath control is also a simple yet effective tool for calming the mind. Deep breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps reduce stress and anxiety. Whenever you notice yourself caught in a cycle of worry, try this. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 4 seconds, and exhale slowly for 8 seconds. This technique reduces amygdala activity and promotes mental clarity. Regular physical activity is another powerful way to break the negativity cycle. Exercise releases endorphins and serotonin, neurotransmitters that boost mood and reduce feelings of stress. Activities like outdoor walks, yoga, or any exercise you enjoy can help distract your mind from negative thoughts and recharge your energy, leaving your brain more balanced. Finally, adopting habits that stimulate your mind in healthy ways, such as meditation, reading, or creative hobbies, helps reprogram the brain. The more you train your mind to focus on the positive and find solutions to problems, the stronger it becomes at handling negative thoughts. Over time, these techniques establish a new mental pattern, making your mind more resilient and less prone to getting trapped in the negativity cycle. Whether it's due to evolutionary bias, fear, anxiety, or stress, the brain is wired to pay more attention to threats than to positive things. The good news is that there are practical and effective ways to break this cycle and train your mind to find balance. Focus on the positive and think more clearly. What about you? Have you noticed that your mind focuses more on the negative? Which of these techniques are you planning to incorporate into your daily life? Share your experience in the comments below. Let's build a community that's more mindful and positive together. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to keep exploring the mysteries of the human mind and body with us. See you in the next video. Until then,